G'day, it's Nigel here. Welcome back to the Sax School Online Podcast. Today, as always, I'm joined by Joel Pennell and Fred Vigda from the Sax School Tutor team. How are you guys doing today?
Not so bad. How are you?
I'm doing great, actually. I'm looking forward to this conversation today. So, in today's episode, I want to talk about apps because we're all looking for more efficient ways to practice our saxophones, right? These days, though, apps are really helpful. They can really make a big difference to our efficiency in the practice room and how much we can get done. But which apps are we actually using? Well, I thought it might be fun if we share a couple of our favorite apps each, and maybe that'll help you with your practice back at home too. So I've got a couple in mind that I use, but Fred, what's the first one that you find yourself using a lot?
I would say probably the one that I use most every time I pick up the horn is this app called Modacity, which is essentially a supercharged practice diary. And it allows me to take every assignment that I do, every little aspect of every assignment, and follow it along, and it times it, and it also has a metronome with it, and it has something called a metrodrone, which takes the metronome and gives it a pitch, and you can change it to any pitch, so it's almost like playing with a drone. And it just helps me to keep track of, you can set, obviously it has a metronome, like I said, so it keeps record of where you are with your tempo and how long you spent on a particular exercise. It's also got little inspirational sayings, which I never read. But it's a subscription, I believe. I bought it when it was like you could get a lifetime thing, and I bought the lifetime. I'm not sure if that's still available or not. But for me, it's a great app, and I usually have it, and I split, with an iPad, you can split your screen. So you can have two different apps running at the same time. So I'll have that and another app, either the iReal book or something else. And it's just really, because I am so unorganized, it really helps me to keep things organized. You can put it in you can have all the individuals, and then you can have sets of different things. And it just, for me, it helps me keep track of, my progress. And it's,
That's
it's
really
kind of
awesome.
motivational in that aspect.
Yeah, I love that. I've never ever used an app like that, which pulls all the elements in together. I'd definitely like to check that out. So that's Modacity. Is that modacity.co?
Yes.
Is that where it is?
I believe it is, yeah.
Love it. Love it. That's interesting too. You've got the metronome built in there because my favorite app, I'll be honest, I'm doing so much technology stuff with Sax School, building lessons and recording things and writing music. And a lot of that stuff is computer-based. But if we're talking just about apps, there aren't really very many that I use. I'm quite simple with the way that I approach my practicing away from the computer. But the thing that I do use absolutely every single day is a different metronome, also a tuner. That's TE tuner, the tonal energy tuner. And I don't know why. I've tried so many different tuners, but a few years ago I came across that one and I just stuck with it. I love it. And actually, loads of our students at Sax School use it as well now. I love the simplicity of the fact that you've got the tuner, the metronome in one place. Like you said about Modacity, TE Tuner also has got that drone feature, although not as fancy as your Modacity one, but I still use that all the time. And also there's quite a lot of extra features in there that I don't even understand. I know for our Sax School members, Fred, you did a proper analysis of it a while back, didn't you?
Yeah, I did a deep dive. And, the thing about, I use that as well. That's one of the things I'll usually split my screen because Modacity doesn't have a tuner. And that the one feature that I absolutely use every day with TE Tuner is the feature that will play back the pitch that you are playing, but plays it perfectly in tune. So you can match your intonation with something that is in tune. And that's again, sometimes I don't even look at for the green smiley face. I'm just listening. You play a note, whatever that note is, it will play it back to you. You got to wear headphones when you do that. And that is an amazing feature, and I haven't found any place else.
Yeah, it's really clever, isn't it? Sometimes an app or an app developer can come up with these ideas. They seem, when you're using them, it's quite simple, but someone had to come up with an idea and it's brilliant and everyone loves it. I think it's brilliant. So TE Tuner, if you're looking for a tuner, combo metronome app that's got a smiley face and also plays back the tune that you wanted, that you played. That's the one to check out. I think it's about $4.99, something like that. We're not sponsored by them. I just think they're brilliant, so I definitely want to talk about them. So that's my first app. What about you, Joel?
Well, I'm a bit of a app addict, I'm afraid. I've got a serious problem with apps. I think currently on my phone, I've got close to 600 apps at the moment. Just on my phone, I'm surprised I have to buy bigger memory phones. I just can't get rid of them all, just in case you use them. Now, they're not all music apps, and definitely one I have as well, and I think most musicians have come across these days, is that TE Tuner. I mean, it is absolutely, and I can promise you, I've bought every tuning app that's ever been out there, and TE Tuner is the one that I ended up on before I spoke to other people that also use TE Tuner. So I think it's a good recommendation by all three of us. What's really interesting about that, just in the software of it, is it uses an algorithm in the way it looks at tuning, that if you were to buy it as a rack-mounted kind of analog system of tuning, would cost you £80,000, and
Really?
some very big guitar players use that particular thing. It's incredibly accurate, and it's the fact that in that tuner that you can actually tell it what instrument you're using. And something you'll notice with other tuners is you get above certain ranges on saxophones because of the overtones and things like that, and they start to go berserk and they don't know what's going on. Well, TE Tuner uses this very special method of tuning that's built into the actual software of it that is very, very expensive to do in an analog way, and that's probably why it's so good. Anyway, that's not the one I'm going to pick. I'm banging on about it, but it's not the one I'm going to pick.
Every conversation
the one I'm
with
going
you,
to pick,
Joel, every conversation with you, it's like you drop all these little nuggets everywhere. How do you even know about that stuff? That blows my mind.
I don't sleep a lot.
Come on then, what is your favorite app then?
So now this app, you may have bypassed it and typed in a similar kind of search and then seen it and thought, that app looks absolutely ridiculous, I'm not going to buy it, just from the icon itself, which looks like a green zombie. And maybe you've downloaded it on an iPad and you thought, well, this hasn't even been updated for iPad. It's like an old school iOS phone app on the thing, but it's my favorite thing I've ever found, and it's called a Drum Genius. And it really is genius. I don't know how they've done this. I don't know how the guy that made this has managed to do it, but he's basically took loops from real recordings. So let's say he's got a Miles album and it's got Philly Joe Jones on it. He's managed to somehow extract a 4-bar loop of Philly Joe Jones playing, and not just one, several. And then managed to get the software to combine these loops so it literally does feel like you're playing with a drummer, but not like a MIDI drummer, not like iReal and clinky clanky. It's got great feel, great time, and it's just an absolute pleasure to play with. I use it particularly, maybe I'm practicing some transcriptions. And you have a couple of options with that kind of thing. You do it in silence because you've not got it up to speed yet. You do it with a slowed down version of the recording, which is just, it's not it's useful, but not that pleasant. Or you do it with some kind of fake kind of drums. And this, you can put it on, you can change the speed, you can even change the pitch of the drums if you really want to. And off you go. And it's like you've got a drummer in your room. And not only that, it's got literally hundreds and hundreds of these rhythms in there, from your basic kind of fast swing or bossas or ballads or Latin or folk, you name it, it's got it in there, to the most extreme key signatures I've ever come across in my life. 2311. Things I didn't even know existed are in there. And it's not expensive. The app itself is free. I think you get 10 free downloads. You can try them all and listen to them all. I think you can download 10 for free. And I think to buy the lot's only about $10 or something like that. It's cheap and well worth it. Absolute my favorite. I use it. I barely touch a metronome anymore, unless I'm just practicing basic technique where I don't want that kind of thing. But for the majority of my practice, I just bang it on and play along to it. Love it. Love it.
I think it's one guy who actually transcribed, because I played it for a couple drummers, and they said that what they think it is it's one guy who actually played every one of those grooves, like
Really?
transcribed them, because you notice they're all sounded the same. Like the audio quality is all the same. So I think
That's true,
some guy transcribed them and just played 8 bars of each one of those and then looped it. That to me seems to me to be the only way you could actually do that. But
Well,
it is a great.
However it's been done, it's great. And if someone did do that, I want him in my band.
Because he plays everything.
There you go, folks. So that's Drum Genius, and we'll share a link in the show notes where you can go and check it out if you're curious. All right, brilliant. Well, I'm learning a load today. I do have Drum Genius, and I think I'm just guilty of not playing with enough and pulling enough loops down, because like you say, you get 10 to start with, don't you? And then you can explore all these other ones. And I look at the huge long list and I kind of think, oh no, I'm just going to practice. I don't want to waste my time choosing the loop. I need to do that extra step and actually choose the loops, and then maybe I'll use it more. Okay, so that's everyone's had their first app. What about, Fred? You mentioned that you've got 2 favorites. So Modacity was your first one. What's your second most favorite app that you use?
The other one is that I'm using when I have the split screen. I have, like I said, I have Modacity up there to keep track. And then I have an app that people don't really talk about that much, and it's called iPractice Pro. And it's actually designed by a saxophone player, and there's some aspects of it that are like he has some fingering charts and things like that, and ways to adjust your reeds. Just some saxophone centric stuff. But the rest of it is essentially you can choose any. He has a bunch of, it's all like MIDI. There's no samples or anything like that. And you could choose a key or a chord progression or a drone in any key. And there's probably, I don't know, maybe 100 different like snippets of chord progressions. Like you'll have a minor 2/5, a major 2/5, and then a 2/5, an altered 2/5, and then 1/6 2/5. All these little like 4-bar progressions in every key. You could change the tempo. So if you're working on a progression you want to get under your fingers, and you can have, what I usually do is you can set it to random keys. So in other words, it'll play one key for 8 bars and then it'll go right into the next key. So it's a good way to get things, under your fingers in all different keys, whatever tempo you want. It's a little, the learning curve is a little tough just to figure out how. It took me a while to figure out how it works because there's so many different variables. But once you do, it's one that I use every day to work on, getting things under my fingers. You can slow it down, like I said, speed it up, any key whatsoever. You can just have it play one chord constantly, there's no groove. It's just a metronome basically. So that's called iPractice Pro.
Wow, that's another one to check out. I've never ever played with that one. Are you familiar with that one, Joel?
No,
in your
I've not
600
come across
apps?
that either. It's another app I'm going to have to buy.
It could be lost in your 600 apps. It could be number 474.
Oh no, there's too many. I'm going to have to buy some more now. You don't know what you've done, Fred.
I couldn't be dealing with 600 apps. I think I'd just, I wouldn't remember which ones I've got. Interesting though, I definitely want to check that one out. My second favorite app that I use most frequently really is the SessionBand packs. I think you use these as well, Fred. Do you use these, Joel?
I actually did.
I've got them all.
I did a lesson. I did a lesson on them in sax school, actually.
Oh, you did? That's right. Yeah. No, I love SessionBand. So if you're unfamiliar with the SessionBand apps and you're listening to this, definitely go check it out. SessionBand is a really cool interface where basically they've got real musicians that have played thousands of clips with. In the interface, you can build up a track using the chords that you want in the style that you want. So the idea is you can buy a pack in a style, and the packs are about $5 to $8 or $10 or something. They're not very much money, but they range from like jazz to blues, soul, funk, even things like deep house and EDM. And they're really great musicians that are playing the actual recordings. So what I like about it is, for example, I really like the, is it called the Soul Jazz Funk, I think? The Soul Jazz Funk's got some great grooves in it and a really great soloist. So Kirk Whalum is the saxophone player on that. And the other packs have got other great soloists as well. So you've got a great band, piano, bass, drums, keyboards, all that stuff, and then a soloist. You can build up the track the way you want it. So it's fantastic if you want to work on a single chord or a single progression or build up a whole song. It's a little bit limited for creating a performance-like backing track. You've got more options with something like Band in a Box, although it doesn't always sound as good. And there's limited variation in the way that it plays the chords. But for a quick way to make a great sounding track that's fun to play along with, then SessionBand is awesome. And you can explore all these different styles as well. So I'm sure, Joel, you've probably got all the packs. I've got a few of them, actually, and I do use them a lot. And I particularly like the Kirk Whalum one because you can put a chord progression together, and in the mixer, you can listen to Kirk Whalum blowing over these chords, although he does the same pattern every time on that chord. But it's great for ideas. But then when you're ready, you could either jam along with him or you could take him out of the mix and just play along with the rest of the band. So
it's also
really
good
cool
for getting started with transcriptions, because you can, like, for instance, you can take the one with Kirk Whalum and you could say, okay, this is what he plays on an A minor over and over again, right? So you can take that little 2-bar thing and learn that 2-bar progression, and then of course you can go take it through 12 keys. But it's really, some people get overwhelmed with the amount, like doing an entire solo, but you can take one little snippet and learn what he's doing, and you take that into other keys.
Yeah, you can learn some Kirk Whalum language in little bite-sized chunks. Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's a really cool tool. We'll put a link for that in the show notes too. Joel, you got a second favorite app?
Yeah, well, they're great, the jazz session. Well, all the session band ones. I've recently got the Fusion session band, which I've been getting into, which is really good. It's got some good grooves on that. But yeah, and you can export it as an MP3 is the great thing. So you can make your own backing track, and you don't have to do it within the app. So you can make it and export it and get on with your day, which we all like. So yeah, so I've got, okay, I'll start with this one. So I'm going to try and say it right. It's Dhwani Tanpura, which is, once again, like you guys have mentioned, occur in some of these other apps.
I had that on Friday night from the...
oh, yeah, right, with the biryani. I got mine with the biryani.
I did, yeah.
Exactly. So, well, you've hit the nail on the head in a way. It's an Indian drone generator.
Oh, wow.
So unlike the kind of just base drones that you get in a lot of the practice apps and stuff, this has got a bit of timbre to it. It's got a bit of sound to it. It sounds real, and it's got the overtones in there. And now there's quite a few of these for practicing over Indian drones, and I love it for all sorts of things. I practice kind of modal sounds over it. I practice just open improvisation over it. And I also even like having a drone on and actually playing changes over it, which is, I know, maybe not what a lot of people do. So, for example, I might take a rhythm changes and put the tonic as the drone, and you can actually hear the harmony moving away from that bass and coming back to it. It gives you a different perspective on what's going on. So I like to do all sorts of things, as well as tuning and all the usual things you do with a drone. But what I really like about this one, apart from it sounding good, is you've got a selection of 4 types of Indian drone in there. I'm not going to try and say the proper names, but basically one is just an octave. It's as clear as that. It's just literally a note, maybe in 2 octaves, but the same note. One's a 4th interval, one's a 5th interval, and one's a minor 7th or a flat 7 interval. So you've got these built in, but the genius of it is you can detune that interval. So normally you're kind of stuck with these bass ones, but what if I wanted to practice some weird modes like Locrian that's got a flat 5? I can make a tritone drone. I mean, what's better than a tritone drone to practice over, So I love it. I think it's a great app. I use it all the time. I like the way it sounds, and it's good fun. But, sorry, I'm going to butt in, because just while we've been talking, another one popped in my head, and I'm just going to tell you about it quickly. It's a quick one to explain, but I'll tell you a little funny story about it, and that's the Bob Mintzer Big Band app. I don't know whether you guys have ever come across this. It's great. So Bob Mintzer Big Band, it's literally the Bob Mintzer Big Band, all the scores, all the parts for everything, and you can mute the first alto player and play and record it with the Bob Mintzer Big Band, which is pretty spectacular. That's all I've got to say about that. It's just worth getting from that point of view. However, my funny story was when I first got it and put it on iPad, it had a problem, and I don't like problems, where you went from landscape to kind of portrait mode. It didn't figure itself out properly. So, I'm not one to complain, but I wrote them an email and said, look, I've got this problem with it, sort of thing. I didn't hear anything back, and then forgot all about it. And about a week later, I got an email from Peter Erskine. And I remember seeing it coming up in my inbox and thinking, oh my God, this is it. He's coming to the UK. I'm going to have a gig with Peter Erskine. Anyway, he was involved in the app development, and he was just telling me that they'd look into it. I don't think I've ever been so disappointed by an email in my entire life. It was a very sad day. I was in a very bad mood for the rest of the day. But there you go. You live and learn. You live and learn.
Oh, dear. You're so close and yet so far.
Yes. Missed it by that much.
Yeah. I've never checked out that Bob Mintzer app. So just to be clear then, so you've got all the tracks, and have you also got the music in the app as well?
Yeah. So on the app, you've got the entire all the charts for every member of the big band is in there. So I think when you get it, I think 2 come for free, and then you can buy the other 10 off the album basically, and you get all the charts. So already you're in profit, because it costs you a fortune to buy those charts. You can print them out, you can do what you want with them, but then recorded in, there's an actual mixer, and it's got the entire big band recorded in. Great big band, obviously. And then you can literally mute parts of them. And then you can record yourself playing with it. But it's really useful composition and arranging tool as well, because you can mute everything apart from the saxophones and listen to the saxophone arrangement or the trumpet arrangement, or you can just take it out and have the rhythm section. It's great. It's a really underrated hidden app that I don't think a lot of people have, but I always recommend it to all my students at the conservatoire. It's great sight reading practice with a really good big band, so
sure,
good stuff.
There you go. Definitely want to check out. And I think we've covered some really interesting apps today. So hopefully that is going to help you with the apps that you might want to use in your own practice. If you've got a favorite app, actually, shoot us over a message, support@saxschoolonline.com. We'd love to hear what your favorite app is. If you've got any suggestions that you'd like us to check out as well. Thanks so much for sharing this time with us on the podcast today. If you want to revisit this podcast or any of the other ones, you can get a full transcription of this episode and all the other episodes over at saxschoolonline.com/podcast. And we've got so much great stuff coming up actually this season and throughout the rest of this year. So don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. If you're feeling really generous too, give us that 5-star review, or maybe share it with a friend who might also enjoy this episode. Thanks a bunch for listening though. Keep practicing hard. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I hope you listening have a great rest of your day too. We'll catch you next time.